Hey, it's Eric. I'm reporting live from my basement in beautiful Arvada, Colorado. Just doing a little video about the last couple weeks and kind of what I've been through. Try not to make this too long or laborious, but basically as a reward to myself for going through this major surgery, took a big trip to Europe. And the countries I was going to, I had in my itinerary, were not on the elevated list when I traveled. And they just said exercise caution when traveling. So on the 3rd of March, I took off for Amsterdam. I spent 3 days in Amsterdam, and then I got on a train and took a night train to Ljubljana, Slovenia. I stayed there for 2 days and could kind of tell things were a little different, but went with it and tried to make the best of it. I got to Zagreb, and once I was in Zagreb, I think pretty much as soon as I got there, within a few hours of getting there, I was notified that my next host in Banja Luka in Bosnia had canceled because they had some cases in Bosnia. So that was on the 10th. It is now the 23rd, I think. And so for the last 14 days, I have been in reaction mode. Not really running, but for the most part, yeah, basically trying to stay one step ahead of this virus. And I want, excuse me, share with you my experience of being on the road, how quickly I saw the attitudes change and the enforcement change, and how what has happened in Europe is now, it's already here, and we're not ready for it, and it's going to be a rough ride. And so here's basically what happened on the 10th of, I found out I didn't have this place, and so I canceled pretty much everything downstream from that reservation up until when I got back to Amsterdam mid-April. Then I made arrangements to stay in the same place in Zagreb for until the 30th of March, with the ability to extend past that. Then things started getting kind of crazy, and the message started changing, and I realized I really shouldn't stay in Zagreb. The level of medical support for my spinal injury is just not there. And so being stuck there in a medical crisis myself that has nothing to do with this virus, and stressing the system that needs to be taking care of people with this illness, it doesn't make any sense at all. So I got on a train and I started heading back. On the train, I met a gentleman from Austria, and he told me about his experience in Ljubljana. Now, I have been treated really well everywhere, but it doesn't work that way for everybody. And I saw this thing called Schengen, which is the being able to cross borders without border control, shut down country by country. And I was just staying like really a couple days ahead of it. As I got on the train to leave Zagreb, the border with Bosnia had closed, the border with Serbia had closed, Hungary had decided not to let anybody, foreigners in, and I could see that these countries were starting to kick foreigners out. And that was really scary to me. So I needed to get to a country that I would not be kicked out of, or that I felt safe in. And so I felt like Vienna and Austria would be a good fit for it. As I was talking to this gentleman from Vienna, he told me that to come back onto Ljubljana, he said that a policeman had come up to him in Ljubljana, asked him where he was from, and when he told him that he was from Vienna, the policeman said, well, you need to go home. You can stay tonight, but you need to leave in the morning. And so they were kicking out foreigners that lived in neighboring countries as I was passing back through Slovenia. I get into Vienna, and my gut tells me Vienna's not the place for me. Even though I had a lodging there, I just kept moving because it just did not feel like it was going to be a safe place for me. So I got on another high-speed train, 9-hour train trip to Cologne, and I spent a sleepless night at a Marriott in Cologne. Get on the train the next morning, actually around noon, and I feel kind of bad for even putting that train trip off, because later that day they really started shutting things down, and like 2 days later they started kicking foreigners out of hotels and requisitioning hotels for other purposes. They're doing that a lot throughout all the European countries, that these hotels are now becoming like lodging for healthcare workers that have to be downtown all the time. So then I get into the Netherlands. I find healthcare that I need. It's wonderful there. I feel totally safe there. But I still have this feeling like I'm running from something. And I really am. You know, I'm running from this virus. But I'm not running from the virus. The virus is already everywhere. There's nowhere I can run to get away from this virus. What I'm running from is the reaction to the virus and trying to get someplace safe so that when everything gets locked down, I'm in a place that works for me. Everybody needs to be in a place that works for them, period. So anyway, I'm in Amsterdam. Well, actually not Amsterdam, just south of Amsterdam. I'm in this neat little town called Delft, and I booked the place for a whole month. And I've got assurances everything's going to be fine. I found a doctor. I've got a hospital that's taking care of me. And, you know, will be there for me if I have issues with my back. And all of a sudden, all of Europe is elevated to level 4. And I'm informed that as a U.S. citizen, I can come home now. I am to come home now. If I don't come home now, within the next 72 hours, they didn't really specify a time period, but they basically said everybody needs to come home, that I could expect that I would need to shelter in place and expect to be there for an indefinite period of time. Everything was fine as it was open-ended when I could come home. But the moment that they put it on me that if I stayed, I would not know when I could come home, that just changed everything, and I couldn't do that anymore. The number of things would have come up. I hadn't even thought about these things when I made the decision to come home. I just was like, okay, they say, you know, if I stay any longer, I'm going to just be stuck here. Okay, that's fine, right? I mean, I could have dealt with that. I had a place for a month. I could have stayed there longer. I had health care. But I want to be with my wife, and I want to be home. And I'll get to that in a second. But as I thought about it later, I really love the Netherlands, and I don't want any kind of infraction or any reason for them to not want me there. And if I had an opportunity to leave and I did not leave, and I wound up being there over 90 days, I'd be in violation of my visa, my tourist visa, which you don't actually have to get a physical visa. You just show up, and as long as you've been there for less than 90 days, you're okay. So anyway, I would have wound up violating that as well. So I wound up, what happened is people really panicked about coming back. And there were big crowds at the airport. So that freaked me out. So I couldn't travel that way. But as it turned out, when I came back, there was almost nobody on the plane. Had most of first class to myself. It was like maybe 15 people in all of the first class. And so the getting back was okay. But let's get to where I'm at now. I have been given a letter of that I need to go into self-isolation from the CDC because I was in Europe. Yeah, of course. But it's really more like quarantine because, there's every chance that I have it. But yeah, I'm isolated from my wife. We're on different levels of the house. And I'm hoping this 14 days passes okay. We can both go out to the backyard, see each other, but we can't get anywhere near each other. There's no way I'm going to give it to her. And it's just not going to happen. So the other thing is, and this is what I want to get to, I spent the last 2 weeks running from this so I could find a place that was suitable for me to stay for a period of time. Everybody needs to do that now. It doesn't matter what you think about the reaction, if it's overreaction or underreaction. None of that matters right now. What matters is everything's going to come to a halt. It doesn't matter if you think it's right. We can come back to that later and talk about that later. But this is going to happen, and we all need to be prepared for this. So please be prepared for this. You'll still be able to get groceries. You'll still be able to go to the pharmacy. This panic buying does not need to occur. Just buy a couple weeks worth of stuff. There's food out there. There's tons of food out there. It's not a problem for production. It's just a matter of distribution. So really just calm down. Get ready to stay home for a while. What I left in Europe is coming here. And what is about to occur in Spain, and what is sort of wrapping up in northern Italy, is an indication of what we're going to be facing. And let's look at that. Let's look at Italy. All right, so Italy went into lockdown, and everybody's like, wow, that's crazy that they locked down all of northern Italy. And then eventually they locked down all of Italy, and just any unnecessary travel was, you're going to be met with heavy, heavy fines, like $25,000 fines. I think that was the number I heard from a different country, but they're not messing around in Italy either. But here's the deal, is that in Italy, they actually see a window where they can open things back up and actually get back to normal life again here in the near future. We do not have that opportunity. Not only do we not have that opportunity, the longer that we wait to do this, the worse it's going to get. And so we're just putting off something that like is just going to fester and get worse. And so I just want to tell you, like, a pretty considerable expense came back early from my vacation. I don't regret anything that I did, but it was an incredible learning experience about listening to my gut and staying nimble and just staying positive through stressing and trying, challenging times. And we're all going to face that. We're all going to face these challenging times. So just be strong and be aware this is coming. And it's going to hit us really hard. It's hitting New York State now. It's starting to hit them pretty hard. They're not ready for this. In Germany, they're taking over exhibition halls and turning them into temporary hospitals. We need to be doing the same thing. All right. So my advice is this is real. Stay home as much as possible. And that's it. We don't have to stop living. Just stay home as much as possible. Find that hobby that you wanted to do, that thing that you wanted to get better at. Now you've got time. All right. Take care, guys.